Welcome to everyone to the Western New York Women's Foundation's 2021 Pathways to Progress Speaker Series. Today, we are so pleased to present Salary Negotiation with Michelle Plesh. I'm Corey Fabian Barrett. I'm the Director of External Affairs with the Western New York Women's Foundation. As you can see, I am joined this morning by our speaker, Michelle, and Melanie Jeskolka, who is our Director of Development. So thank you all for joining us. Before we get started, I do have a few housekeeping tips and a quick word about the Western New York Women's Foundation for those of you who may not be familiar with our work. As an organization, we're committed to creating opportunities for all women to earn, learn, and lead. We present these free webinars monthly to educate and inspire our community to advance gender equity and move Western New York forward. Coming up next for us, we're very excited. Our annual What She's Made Of celebration is going virtual this year. We are thrilled to announce that the amazing Carla Harris will be joining us as our keynote speaker. Carla is a nationally recognized business leader, author, and gospel singer who was named one of Fortune magazine's 50 most powerful Black executives in America. Carla will be joining us on May 17th to share her pearls of intentional wisdom and leadership and take your questions about how to lead and succeed in your career. We hope that all of you will be able to join us for an inspiring afternoon and carry Carla's pearls with you into your workplaces, your careers, and your lives. Women can create incredible collective impact when we work together. You can register online today at WNYWomen'sFoundation.org to join us and Carla on May 17th. Special thanks to our presenting sponsor, M&T Bank, for their ongoing commitment to advancing gender equity in the workplace. And thanks to all of you for joining us on the webinar this morning. We know that your time is precious and we appreciate your support of our work. We will continue creating these spaces for women to convene and learn together in the coming months. So please be sure to follow us on social media of your choice, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, or Twitter, to get all the information about our upcoming offerings. And now I have those housekeeping tips I mentioned for today's webinar. We'll be online talking to you all for about an hour today, with time for questions throughout and at the end of the formal presentation. This full session is also being recorded, so if you want to watch it later or share it with a friend who couldn't make it, it'll be online freely after. In your control panel at the bottom of the screen, you will see that we have both a chat and a Q&A feature available today. For us Zoom webinar veterans, we know that these are slightly different tools. If you have a question specifically for Michelle that you would like her to answer at the end or throughout the presentation, please click on Q&A and enter it there. If, on the other hand, you'd like to share an experience that you've had or start a conversation with your fellow attendees, type that in the chat box so that everyone can see it. Melanie will be monitoring both of these spaces throughout the whole session, so don't worry too much if you get them mixed up. Your question will still get where it needs to go. Now, without further ado, it is my pleasure to introduce Michelle Plesh, our speaker for today's session. A human resources professional with experience in manufacturing, technology, and healthcare industries at domestic and international organizations, Michelle started her career in teaching. She soon felt that she was missing the real world experiences by being solely in the classroom, and so she left teaching after about 3 years to work in business, where she quickly gravitated to human resources opportunities. Michelle initially worked as an office manager and then evolved into an HR generalist and eventually an HR leader. Michelle currently works as the Director of Human Resources and Organizational Development at Excelsior Orthopaedics and Buffalo Surgery Center. She also still teaches and does some consulting on the side. On a personal note, she is the proud mom of 3 adult children. Thank you so much for being with us this morning, Michelle, and let's take it away. I will stop sharing my screen so you can share yours.
Thank you. All right, so good morning, everyone. I'm glad to be here. Thank you, Corey and Melanie, for the introduction. Everyone can hear me okay? Just a sound check, Corey, Melanie? Okay, great. So, you know, the title of the class or the session was Salary Strategies. And I just want to put a little disclaimer out there. I think it's really about negotiation in general and about career negotiation, right? So it's more than just the salary. So I want to keep that in mind as we talk through the next 30 to 45 minutes. So we don't have to do any housekeeping. So the agenda is, let's review the current job market. Let's share some tips for positioning your best self with the application and interviewing strategies that actually result in job offers. Because if you don't do everything that leads up to the job offer, you don't have an opportunity to negotiate. So I think it's time well spent reviewing some of those strategies, making sure that those are locked in solid to position yourself best to have an offer and begin the negotiation process. So we negotiate when we have offers, but then we also have opportunities while we're currently working to assess the situation and possibly discover that you may have a greater market value than what's currently showing up in your paycheck. And so how do we approach those opportunities as well? And then we can have Q&A. So I'll also pause, within 15 minutes and we'll take any questions if there are any. So a little bit more about me and the presentation. I've got about 25 years experience. Certainly I have looked for jobs. I've had different jobs. And I've been on the receiving end of having to negotiate someone asking for a raise and extending offers. So as an HR professional, I've got experience on both sides. I will say, and I guess I can say I'm proud of it, I have left a job for a less salary throughout my career for greater opportunity. So it was in my plan to gain different experiences. And I know that I couldn't gain those experiences on that imaginary career ladder that you think just goes rung after rung after rung perfectly, where in reality, it kind of goes in steps horizontally, where you might go up a step, but then you might go across, you might have to come down to go up, up. And that's kind of how my path went. My experience is in different industries as well. So I'm feeling like a well-rounded HR professional and hope I can be a resource to all of you. The resources that I did some research, to put this together, I want to share with you some of my experiences and knowledge, but I also asked, looked around, talked to some of my colleagues and citing some resources in general from the Harvard Business Review, ZipRecruiter, NBC News, Business Insider, Forbes Magazine, SHRM, and various podcasts, which some are much better than others. As a matter of fact, I would say some are poor. So be careful with the podcasts and what you're listening to as, I don't want to say gospel, but as the only way to think. Listen to a variety of them and kind of start to form your own opinions. But I did find one called Candidate Planet, and it's a young woman who does about a 20-minute topic, and she's pretty good. So if you're looking for one that's quick on a 20-minute walk or drive, she might be someone that you're interested in listening to. Okay. So what's happening in the market today? So COVID is new. So this is a new job market for everyone. And this graph represents, I don't know if you can see my cursor. Can you see it, Corey? Yep. Okay. So here we were in January 2020. The green bar says how many jobs are out there, and the line is how many people are looking. So we had more supply of people than we had demand of jobs. So that's not good for the job seeker, okay? That does not give the job seeker a position of leverage. There's more people out there than there are jobs. So now COVID hits around March, and now in April, look at this. We're starting to have more jobs than people who are interested in working. Not even to talk about health conditions, won't go there, but less people were working and less people were interested in working. And I almost think, I don't have scientific data on this, I almost think from my experience, a lot of people are not interested in working right now either. From an HR standpoint, a lot of colleagues of mine, we would post a job, you'd get, I'll just say dozens of applicants and decent applicants. Today, I'm getting a fraction of that, 3, 5 applicants per every posting when previously had a dozen or 2 dozens. So a fraction, but where we are today, not to dwell on this, today, March of 21, just a month ago, we're looking at 14 and a half million job postings and only 8 million job seekers. So this positions the job seeker in a position of leverage, okay? Some clips from NBC News and Forbes magazine. You know, this circle here, job seekers right now have a tremendous amount of leverage. How you use this leverage depends on how successful you'll be. And Elon Musk, the owner of Tesla and you know, quite a famous guy for being self-made and being a successful business person. And Apple, Google, Netflix don't require a 4-year degree. Looking at skills, knowledge, and abilities from a value on a market value standpoint, the degree is definitely valuable. Don't want to discourage anyone from pursuing your degree and completing your degree and multiple degrees. However, the market's changing. So, you know, where does leverage kind of balance out a little here? So enough of that right now, but it does start at the beginning. You know, your best self, and it's a coined phrase, right? But getting a job is a job in itself. You have to really make a commitment to getting that job. So we're going to talk first about getting the job offer and then negotiating the job offer. And your first objective is get the interview, so then you can get an offer. So a few things on the left-hand side here. Know your industry and salary trends. So quick comments. Non-union versus union. A union, if you even a white collar or a blue collar union, the pay is fixed. The benefits are fixed. You have really zero leverage. So going into that organization in a union environment, you really have no leverage. So eyes wide open with that opportunity. Non-union, you have some leverage. Maybe they're privately held, even if publicly held, you've got a different dynamic you're dealing with. Entry versus mid-level versus director level jobs. You know, you've got a little wiggle room at entry level, you got a little more at the mid-level, and you have the most as you progress in your career at a director level. And when I say little or more, it could be a percentage of your pay or actual dollar amounts, okay? So for example, at an entry level, if you're asking for $1 more, you know, it could be actually a, you know, 15 or let's say a 10 to 15% increase. You know, at a director level, you're asking for $1 more, you know, it could be a 1% increase. So, you know, what are you actually going after here? And different industries pay differently. I'm just going to throw out, you know, insurance industries, you know, they have a higher pay scale. All right. Nonprofits typically have a lower pay scale. Healthcare, depending on where you are, and education, depending on where you are. Teachers, you know, make a good salary. However, if you go to private education, they may make less. If you go into administration, you potentially have a higher earning. Manufacturing's all over the place. Banking, probably in the middle. As you progress, the pay scales are higher in general, just incrementally. And then certainly if you're working at a startup or an international company, I should have said large international company. If you're working for a company that is, you know, organic, you know, just starting and they've got 10 or less people, you know, money might not be exactly, it will not probably be what you're getting. You might be getting stock options, you might be getting some benefits or flexible schedules or something creative in your package versus cash in your pocket. So you got to be open to that. Where international companies have probably more structured compensation packages, they've got a cycle, they've got salary ranges, and it's very designed, where startups are still trying to figure it out. So what are you ready to be okay with? So here are some limitations or opportunities that you should be aware of as you begin this job search or job change, correct? Some resources that I typically use, there are companies that actually do compensation reviews. But for us individuals, let's just say using the internet, which is great, here are some resources: PayScale, Salary.com, Bureau of Labor Statistics, which is a government website, ZipRecruiter, Economic Research Institute, which is a really good one. Indeed, Zippia is a newer one. But you can Google just, you know, whatever your job title is and just say secretary, you know, HR salaries, you know, whatever it may be, and you'll start getting it. Be careful. They may be national averages. Some sources are better than others, where they actually provide a job description to say, you know, we're going to give you the salary band, but this is what the description is. Your description might have the same title, your job might be the same title, but the description is very different. So you have to keep searching for what's the right fit to use as a resource. Okay, the application. I just have some general comments about a few pieces in this process. Complete it and be cautious at the same time. Your resume, what makes you stand out. And I really have some comments on the voicemail, and then we'll get into the interview. So complete an application in its entirety. List references, because the people who are looking at your application might know your references, even if they don't know you. When I check references, I actually look deeper, right? I say, well, where did this person work? Who do I know at those companies where that person worked? Because HR professionals have been trained, if we get a phone call from about Sally Smith, who I might not really know all that well, I didn't work with her directly, but Sally Smith is a reference. I want to frame this up. When someone calls me to check a reference for one of my current employees, for example, okay, for whatever reason, or a previous employee, I am confirming pay, I'm confirming title, I'm confirming status, good status, for example. Your personal and professional references on your application should be people who you've worked with and who can speak to your skills, your impacts that you make on the job, whether it's leadership potential, sales potential, etc. Your neighbor who you've known for 20 years may not be able to be that reference that you're looking for to be impactful for that potential new company. So think through your references, and as someone looking at applications, I want to see references, and I'm going to be looking at places where you've worked and call maybe previous employers because I might have a connection there. Do the application perfectly. I have to say, don't make errors, don't skip steps. It's a demonstration of your ability to complete tasks thoroughly, accurately, and that you respect the process, right? If you're going to be getting in a job that has processes and you think from day one you can skip steps, you're sending a message that you might go rogue. So follow the process and be aware that there are illegal application forms. And what that is, New York State has a salary ban on the application and in the interview process. So it prohibits New York employers from asking salary and compensation history of candidates or any other sources. So if you have an application or an interview where someone says, what do you currently make? All right, you do not have to answer that. And you can say that. I understand that that's an illegal question, and therefore I'm uncomfortable answering that. Would you like to rephrase the question? You could, now you're driving a little bit, but you don't have to answer that. And on the flip side, or complementary side to that, the employer doesn't have to provide a pay range. I have candidates who apply, I'll call and say, I'd like to talk to you about this nursing position, for example. And they say, well, let me stop you right there. What does it pay? Before we begin, let's talk about pay. And that sets the tone for me right out of the gate that I'm not sure if this person's actually motivated or possesses the core values in our organization around career growth, career commitment. So starting with pay isn't a good idea, but it's also a ticklish topic, obviously. Why do we have the salary ban? It perpetuates pay inequities. We know, and I'm not going to get into this topic because it could be a whole nother session around pay inequities for women and minorities. But what was previously happening up until just a couple years ago is companies would say to a person, how much are you making? And the person would say $20. And another candidate might say $25, okay? And the employer says, well, I'll offer the person who makes $20. So they're putting value on continuing to have pay inequities. Maybe I'll profile, and maybe it was a female and a male. And we can't have that. That has to stop. Government did step in. That is a good role the government has in this particular case. So it forces employers to assess candidates based on how well she or he meets the employer's current needs, not on how much they currently make. All right, so I'll keep going. Resume content. Be sure your resume represents you and it's appropriate for your industry. There are, I could start a little picture book on what not to do with resumes, and I did snip a couple just to share with you. People put clip art on there. They put borders of lollipops. They put graphics of all kinds of things. It's really not necessary unless you're going into some graphic design and you're submitting a portfolio. And I also, I'm going to pause as a moment here. I meant to say before we started, it was difficult for Corey and Melanie and myself to know the demographic of the audience this morning. So it's hard to know where everyone is in their career right now. So thank you for your patience as we talk about different steps. But your resume certainly should be a reflection of you. I'm kind of like straight up business. So my resume is pretty straight up business. I don't have a lot of flair on it. You know, I don't use color. I might bold or italicize a few things just to help the eye read a little easier, but it's not super flashy. And if you're in business, usually that's kind of the way to go. If you're in art or a more artsy field, you know, that has a different, just know your industry, I guess. Consider writing a personal mission statement. Make it easy for the reader to figure out what are you looking for. If your resume is full of a whole bunch of words and nothing to help guide the reader, aha, this person's looking for X, then I want to keep reading it. You know, employers, I'll say me, look at resumes literally for seconds. It's a flash. It's a flash. It's almost like it could be one of those dating apps or something where you flash or slide, and it's quick. So you got to make it easy for that reader to stop and continue reading. Couple tips: most recent employment first, then list your previous jobs. So what are you doing now? And that should take up a bulk of time, or bulk of space, excuse me. And, you know, list it in bullets. Don't write a paragraph in ongoing sentences. I'm doing this, period. I'm doing this, period. I'm doing this. Make it easy to read. Recent grads, list your education first, then list your employment. Think about a piece of paper and, you know, here's my show and tell here, but, you know, if this is a piece of paper, your eyes usually land in the top third of a piece of paper. What you're selling should be right here for that reader to see. So if you're a recent grad with your nursing BSN or your MBA or whatever, your engineering degree, and you don't have any work experience, what you're selling is your degree or your education right now. So education is first, and then, you know, the restaurant experience or whatever that's not really related to your experience for those new grads comes after that. For someone who has 10 years experience, their education is at the bottom now. They're selling their experience, their job skills, their knowledge, abilities that complements the education that kind of comes towards the bottom. So whatever you're selling first should be at the top third of the page. And I can't tell you how many people leave off their email address, their phone number, the way to contact someone. So those details are important. And just a quick comment, you know, if you've got a greater than a 3.0 GPA, list it. You've worked hard for that. That's great. And if you have a general business degree, it's so general. What are those concentrated courses that you really liked? You know, if you're pursuing an accounting job, but you have a general business degree and maybe some work experience, list those courses in accounting. You did financial accounting, you did cost accounting, you did managerial accounting, etc. Or if you have an interest in HR, or you have an interest in retail management, and you've had that course selection sequence, list it so the reader knows, aha, they're geared toward this direction. I think I can work with this person. Quickly, more resume content. I'm going to do a time check too. Buzzwords when possible. Say that you've done things with quality, efficiency, timely. You know, and my italics on this slide is sample bullets on a resume. You know, that you meet and regularly exceed daily call volume and quality quotas. You know, that you process 102% of required claims consistently while meeting quality goals. Regularly score 98% on the customer satisfaction survey. When I'm reading a resume and I see numbers, my eyes go right to numbers. These are measurable, tangible results that this person has accomplished. And if they've done it for that company, I want to figure out how they can do that for my company. So I'm going to gravitate towards statistics, but, you know, numbers that will give me a good interview question as well. You know, how do you think you're getting 98% on the customer satisfaction survey? tell me about your customer service skills so they can start telling their story. If 102% is what you're always getting, why don't we raise the bar to 100? What would you do differently then? So it's good information to start to generate a conversation. And make sure your tense is correct, meaning if you're currently working there, you're meeting or meets, okay? But if you used to work there, right, your previous job, you met and exceeded the daily call volume, you processed, you scored. So make sure I'm not wondering if you have an error on your resume because you used to work there, but you're talking in present tense. What I think has happened is people have updated their resume and they haven't paid close enough attention to the details on how their story's unfolding. And obviously no errors. However, resumes are so sloppy these days, it's really kind of sad. Okay, so if your resume is crisp, you automatically get a second look. It gets more time invested in it. A lot of colors not necessary, and I tried to just use a different color for every letter, and I'm not kidding. People do this. They actually do this. Be selective with bold and italics. Use a reasonable size font, and depending on the amount of experience you have, try to get to one page. If you've got less than 10 years experience, you probably have one-page resume. 10 and you're at a mid-level, probably 2 pages. Greater than 10, you might be able to go to 3 pages. But make sure each page is full. Don't submit a page and a half, because a page and a half to me is wasteful. You're okay with wasting this extra space. Either fill up 2, okay, or get it on 1, because one of the things that, well, it doesn't matter, I was going to say bothers me, is it's just wasteful in general. And so what other things do you waste that this is an example of that? So remember, your resume has to be easy to read, it has to be error-free, and it needs to be relevant. And I'm not a PowerPoint expert, so this is as good as it gets with my, special effects. This is an example of Indeed's resume template. Several candidates come through just using Indeed's resume template. So they all look the same. So there's one, it's becoming easy to read because I know exactly the flow, okay? And I'm not doing this to critique these resumes. I'm just sharing with you that when you have a resume that looks different and is crisp, it gets a little more attention. These resumes have those personal mission statements. I would say they're good resumes. They're not great. They're not bell ringers, but I stop and look a little more closely. On the left, this is a business-focused customer service professional. I know exactly what this person's looking for. It's very clear to me. Based on her experience, I may not know it. Even the first one, she worked at, she or he, United Healthcare Clinical Administrative Coordinator. I could wonder, well, do they want to be a clinical person or do they want to be a customer service person? That's very different. They want to be a customer service person because they told me. And then over here, this person's a human resources specialist. And I thought this was kind of interesting. She put, it was a woman, former trailing spouse. So she explained right up front for 8 years, she more than likely followed her spouse around while that person was traveling in different jobs or maybe raising a family. It's an interesting question, and she put it out there. And to me, it says, this is a transparent candidate. They're going to tell me things that help me fill in the blanks if I'm unsure without me having to wonder. So I kind of liked that strategy. And then she lists probably every HR skill there might be, which is a little much, but in any event, it's at least guiding the reader. So those are resumes, and maybe one more slide, and then we'll pause for a question. So post-application benefits, check your email multiple times a day and check your voicemail regularly and have a professional greeting and state your name. Hello, you've reached Michelle. I'm sorry, I can't catch your call. I will return your call as soon as possible. So many people have unprofessional, I'm just going to call it, greetings, and they don't state their name, as well as they let the caller know, I'll call you back at my earliest convenience. And I'm going to suggest it's better to say, I will return the call as soon as possible, as opposed to when it's convenient for me, but as soon as the break comes, I'm going to get back to you because your call is important to me because I'm seeking a job, and that's a job in itself. If you're answering the phone, answer the phone like you're on the job. Say hello. Just that could be your next boss. And that is your first impression. Be prepared to have a brief conversation with the caller, and keep a pen and paper in your car. If you're going to answer the phone in the car, hands-free, which is great, have something ready to say, take notes. You are prepared. You are a prepared job seeker. And that sends a big message when you get that call, all right? Because the interview's already started as soon as you hit send with that application. Okay, yeah, let's start. Do I want to pause, Corey? What do you think? No?
Do we have any questions immediately, Melanie, or are they good to hold?
Yeah, we have a couple. So we have a few that Michelle's going to get to, and then here's a couple that have come up. First, one of them, the participants wondered, Michelle, if we'd be able to share your slides out afterwards, email them out to attendees.
Yeah, yes.
Great. Okay, great. Yeah, so we'll be sure to follow up with that. And then we had another participant who wondered if you would talk a little bit about cover letters and what employers want to see in cover letters.
So I'm going to speak for myself. I breezed through a cover letter just as fast. And the cover letter's purpose is to tell a different story than what the resume tells. So what I find is if someone is applying and their address is in Florida and everything about them is in Florida, I don't know their story. I then look to the cover letter for someone to tell me I am relocating to the Western New York area and I will be there on June 1st. I've started my job search, blah, blah, blah. And this is all the great things about me. That's valuable in the cover letter. I would say a cover letter doesn't hurt. I would also say it's trending to not be as valuable as all the other things that are important about your resume and that phone call and leading up to the interview. But it does add value. Take the time to do it. Short and sweet, just short and sweet. It doesn't have to be 4 paragraphs long, just to introduce yourself and compliment your resume. Don't restate it, compliment what might be missing or a part of your story that you want to share that makes you a qualified candidate, that enhances or propels your candidacy. I hope that helps. Good. Any other questions? Thank you.
I'm going to hold the rest since they are more about the latter part of your presentation.
Okay, very good. So interview basics, 10 minutes early, dress appropriately for the position in the industry. I say it's tricky. For me, I always go business professional because it's safe. Some people aren't comfortable with that. So I'm going to leave that one alone. And if people have questions, we can ask specific questions on it. The handshake's kind of going away, but maybe it's a fist pump, maybe it's an elbow tap, and we'll see where the world takes us. You probably need to wear your mask, but smile with your eyes, right? Being an active listener is going to be more challenging. They can't see your face unless you get a Zoom interview. So smiling with your eyes, using your eyebrows, nodding, sitting forward, leaning in, using your hands to some degree to show that you're actively engaged in the conversation. Bring extra copies of your resume, a pen, maybe a folder, turn off your phone, sit up straight. I also train on interviewing, so interviewers, and how I tell them, don't slouch in your chair, because as soon as somebody's slouching, right, they're just kind of leaning back, it almost gives the candidate permission to emulate that. But we have to be smarter candidates. We are going to continue to sit up straight and be active listener, make eye contact. When you're asked a question, answer the question. Break it down in your mind. What was asked of me? Come up with 1, 2, 3 sentences that's going to answer it. And the power of the pause is valuable. Pause. Answer the question, pause. Read their body language. Did you miss the mark? If you not notice that, say, did that answer your question? Pause. It's okay. Over talking's bad in an interview. Okay. We want to volley, right? We want to have a conversation. We want to have a meeting. Am I going to be, comfortable working with this person and communicating with them on a regular basis? I don't want it to be talk, or missing the mark. This is a big one. Get business cards, send a follow-up email, and really the takeaway box, don't underestimate likability. Smiling so hard right now, but don't underestimate being likable, being friendly, being pleasant, laughing, having humor injected into the process is very important. be a good, I don't want to say good, but be a prepared interviewee with what's called behavioral-based interview questions, that your previous behavior predicts your future behavior. Be ready with examples, right? If you have on your resume that you led a project to do X, Y, and Z, the interviewer is going to say, tell me about that project. Tell me about a time when you worked under pressure. Tell me about a time when you had conflict in the workplace. Tell me about a time where you missed a deadline and what did you learn from it? Think about the question, tell the story, follow it up, right? I think skilled interviewees ask questions too. I jumped ahead, sorry. Open-ended questions for you, be prepared to answer these. And the final bullet too, if there's a gap in your employment due to COVID, what have you been doing to maintain your skills? So that's going to be important for you to be prepared and prepare to answer questions out loud. I also think to increase your candidacy and your leverage for job offer negotiation is what questions do you ask of them, right? Get some of the housekeeping out of the way. Who am I report to? Training, but now you're starting to think bigger and you're letting them know what challenges do you see someone in like me facing in this role? What does success look like in this role, right? What has the company done to protect its staff from COVID? We want to know that they think of safety and health of their staff. What's the position on diversity, equity, and inclusion? Are they current with what's going on in the world today? And is that important to you and how that plays into the company that you want to work for? And then some housekeeping as well. But also say, you're wrapping up. Is there anything else? Give them that last chance you'd like to know about me that I haven't covered. Okay, so that gives them, okay, yeah, you know what? I was taking notes and do you have this experience specifically? So they might engage again in a new line of questioning because you gave them that opportunity. Send a follow-up email. It's a difference maker for sure. However, talking about leverage, the landscape is changing, right? So lots of companies have figured out work from home options. Employers now have a larger network of potential candidates. The person doesn't have to live in Cheektowaga to be the best candidate. They could be in South Carolina, and companies are figuring out how to do this. So now that is tricky on a leverage standpoint. And then pay and benefits might be reflective of the state where the headquarters of the company is located, not necessarily where you're working. So you might be working in Cheektowaga, New York, and your company is in Idaho with a low cost of living, or it might be in California with a high cost of living. So be aware. Social media, just throwing it out there that it does influence us. And when you get to the interview, kind of assess, geez, on social media, this looks like the best place to work. They have a hot dog day every week, all that kind of stuff. Get there and ask about it. Do some of that research. So is the playing field a little more level with this new landscape? But also remember, you're interviewing them. Do you like them? Okay. They might like you. You might not like them. So that is part of the process. So congratulations. You've got an offer. You've done all these things really, really well. Now let's talk about negotiation. Time check, 9:38. Okay. Don't underestimate the importance of likability. It's more than just being polite. You got to get that job offer, right? And now you still have to make them like you when you begin negotiating. As a matter of fact, you want to make them like you more, okay? Get to know you better because you've engaged in this process. And you're asking for what you deserve because you're educated, not greedy, right? You're being persistent because you see the future, not being a nuisance, right? Help them understand why you deserve it, what you're requesting, right? By saying you have a lot of student loans and debt doesn't build your argument. It hurts your argument, okay? You've got a farther drive. Nope, it's your choice if you want to live in Springville and work in Niagara Falls. You applied here. You knew that was coming, okay? So, those are not justifiable reasons, right? There's a difference between cocky and confident, and when you cross that line, you probably have lost all your leverage, okay? Make it clear they can get you. Don't play such hardball that they're saying, well, geez, I'm not going to even try that hard because it seems like they've got 3 offers on the table and all the other offers sound better than this one. Now, and certainly I should have added here, don't bluff. Being truthful will win in the long run, okay? Bluffing, or I should say lying, really lying is not a strong strategy, okay? But make it clear they can get you. If you have another offer and that offer is significantly more, you don't have to talk dollars and you don't have to talk percentages. Percentages is usually a little better, or ranges is probably best. I've got an offer for 50,000 and I have another offer for 55,000, let's say, and you really want to go with the 50. Okay, you really like this company better. You know, you can say, I really like all the things about the XYZ company, and this is why, and this is why I feel like I'm a fit, and this is why, you know, I see myself in the future, and I see us working together successfully. However, I have another offer that's approximately 10% greater than this offer. What are the chances we can review my total package and discuss salary again? Okay, so this is their tension, there's tense conversation. It could be awkward, but you're advocating. Okay, and again, you have to be likable. You can't be cocky about it. Don't negotiate just to negotiate. If it's important to you, go for it. But if it's a fair offer and if it's what you asked, you're done. So if someone says to you, what are you looking for? Which is a legal question. Okay, what is your salary requirement, Michelle? And I give a number. We do all our courting, and an employer comes back and says, Michelle, I have given you the exact dollar amount you've asked for. I've lost all leverage. I have no negotiation power at this time. They've given me exactly the dollar amount that I've asked for. I might be able to negotiate other things, but not money anymore. So important that you don't answer that question and don't haggle over every detail. If it's, I don't even know what details would be worth haggling over. A parking place, for example, it's probably not worth it, and it could turn someone off. Know who you're negotiating with. It's very different if you're negotiating with your future boss versus HR. You know, HR might be hiring 10 people and they're all the same to that person, and they're going to just stick to the process. But if you're negotiating with that boss who you're going to report to and there's value with you and that person might be the one you're having the conversation with. Negotiate multiple issues simultaneously, not serially. Meaning, if you've got three things, you say, well, geez, I really would like more vacation. Okay, good. Let me get back to you tomorrow. Oh, Michelle, I got you more vacation. Oh, well, that's good because, I really want to talk about the salary now. Well, that's going to backfire. If you've got a few things, get them in order and prioritize them. The most important thing to me is salary, or the most important thing to me, a lot of people, is that flexible work arrangement. What's your priority? And be open and transparent about that process. I'm kicking it into a fast gear here because we're taking too much time. Stay at the table. No means no today. Okay, so if they can't negotiate right now your salary, you might accept that job with a plan to review in 3 or 6 months or a year. So stay at the table. Just because they couldn't grant it to you on the day of your first day of employment doesn't mean it's forever. Understand their constraints. Maybe they can't do it. COVID was tough. 2020 was difficult. A lot of companies had pay freezes, I apologize, and cuts, reductions. So that might not have been a good time to ask for, to start negotiating. Be prepared for tough questions. If you're going to come to the table and ask for X, Y, and Z, and the person says, if I offer that to you tonight, will you accept it? They're going to say, I'm going to lock in this deal and be done with it. You better be ready to say yes if that's what you're asking for. And be ready to say, if you have other offers right now, tell them the truth. And what is your salary requirement / what is your total package requirement? That's where we really need to get to. And the last slide around negotiation, consider the whole deal, right? Don't fixate on salary. And, when you get this slide in your hands, you can really more study it. But, what responsibilities are you looking for? Who's going to be your boss, your mentor? Is location, travel, flexibility important to you or not important? What probably it should be more important is that opportunity for growth and promotion and learning, continued education, the work style, the company culture. Realize that your fringe benefits are 30% on top of your salary. So that benefit plan, that health insurance contribution that the company makes, all those dollars end up adding up on top of the take-home pay. So get clarification, the second or this third bullet here, is there a performance management process? Are there merit increases? Understand everything that goes with it. Maybe there is student loan assistance. This is becoming very popular. What are the wellness incentives, insurance, phone or car allowance, stock options, profit sharing? Get all the information and just maintain a sense of perspective, right? Make sure you get the right job. That is what really needs to be the goal. And I hate to sound Pollyanna, but things fall into place when you're in the right place, working for the right reasons, focused. Should be a thoughtful, holistic process designed with career satisfaction as the primary objective. It's 9:45. Should I pause? There's a few more slides. Now you have the job and you want to negotiate while you're at work, right?
Yeah, we actually had some questions come in about that. So why don't you keep going?
Keep going. Okay,
Yeah.
So you got the job and you want more money, right? But what that really means is you add high value. That's the story you're saying. If you go in with, hi boss, I've been here 2 years, I want more money. Hi boss, I've been here 2 years and these are all the great things about me. I really add a lot of value. And let me tell you more about why I think we might need to talk about compensation. Okay, let's talk about it. All right. The prep work, know your company policy and process. Is there a compensation cycle? So looking at a calendar today at the end of April, if your company does January to December, now is the time to be talking about compensation if you're going after that. Okay. If you're doing a January to December cycle, coming in November, or in that performance review meeting and saying, well, I really was going to ask for a raise. Well, it's too late, right? The cycle's already closed. So now is the time to begin those career discussions, those goal setting discussions, those plans that have tangible, measurable results that you are going to continue to prove to show that you add more value. Are there salary ranges? And are they clearly defined with measurables? That should be an S there, measurables. Know if your direct manager can make compensation decisions. They might not be. All right. Are you negotiating with the right person? Are you regularly having career discussions and are you keeping track of them? If not, be that leader, that individual leader of the process to make the appointments or the meeting schedules yourself. If your manager isn't meeting with you every 2 weeks, minimally once a month to have a career discussion, you put it on the calendar. And is your career going in the direction you want? And is the company where you want to stay and grow? Or are you willing to leave? Okay, because now you're letting the cat out of the bag. Like there's something unhappy about what's happening today. I might like my job, but I don't like my salary. Is that enough for me to leave? Okay. Also reflection, right? Are you meeting the expectations of the job? Okay, if you are an average meeting person, okay, and you want to raise just because you think you show up every day, you work really hard, you answer the calls, you close the projects, you treat the patients, like that's your job. Okay, so, if you're paid fairly for your job when you're steady, probably not worthy. There's got to be another reason, right? Are you demonstrating increased market value through your actions, results, behaviors? What are those things? Are you taking advantage of growing yourself and your career? Are you leading projects or starting a project or an initiative? You might be in the office or you might be saying to yourself, well, we don't have that at my company. We don't have a sustainability committee or a diversity, equity, and inclusion committee. Well, start one. See what it's going to take to make a change. Be the change, right? Join a committee. Seek out a mentor. Seek out someone who's not your direct manager. Doesn't have to be at your company. Could be at another company. Ask to expand your scope. Ask to meet with other managers to learn about their departments and how your department maybe interacts with them or doesn't interact and why. And when you're in meetings and you've got opportunities to participate or contribute, make that your job, right? If you're at a town hall meeting, make sure you raise a question, ask something thoughtful and prepared about where the company is going. Get your name out there. Network inside and outside the organization. Networking outside is really valuable. I admit to taking too long in my career to value the importance of networking, where you could join groups, network, even at happy hours, social hours, even in your company, do that happy hour Zoom or book club that could be extra after hours or extra time, so to speak, to show that you're engaged not only in just the day job, but the whole organization growing and changing and with you inside it. So over here, do you want to be a part of the future of the organization? And do you see the organization wanting you to be part of it? That's where you need to go. And another slide that could take another session about the difference between a fixed mindset and a growth mindset, because you know what? The answer might be no when you ask for this raise, right? And you got to be okay with that. You got to understand there's opportunities beyond the money in my pocket, okay, that I'm focused on for career growth. So I won't go over this, but I ask you that, you might think setbacks, right? Like, oh, I'm helpless. But you know what? That growth mindset says I'm resilient. I'm picking myself back up and I'm going to make myself successful. Some data. Pay increase for 2020 average from SHRM says 2.3 to 2.6 in 2019. In-house promotions. Typically, you're moving from one job to another job in your company from individual contributor to manager, 3 to 20% increase. But it could be 3%, could be 20%, anywhere in that range. In-house transferred. So now this is a lateral move. Could be nothing, or it could be a market adjustment, okay? A market adjustment's different than a raise or a promotion. And what's happening in our job market, right? So Target, Arby's, I saw a sign at Arby's the other day, hiring at $15 an hour. Probably 2 years ago was $13.50, okay? The market has changed. Supply and demand has changed. So now your value, potentially because the bottom up, has grown. Now, the value change is increased higher at the bottom and less dramatically at mid to top. Okay, so if you're somewhere mid-career, underneath, your value should have gone up, something, but mid and up, your value probably doesn't change as significantly. So you're asking for a raise or a market adjustment. Track your accomplishments. Have a piece of paper that says, I have done all these things. Not that I did my job, not my job description. What have you done that added value, right? Know your worth through networking, through the research that you've done, through PayScale, salary.com, the resources listed. Consider what's going on in the company. If there are freezes, more than likely, this is not going to happen. But know too that it might not be in your salary. Your boss or your boss's boss may not be able to adjust your pay off cycle, for example. They might be able to do something with vacation. Vacation's probably the easiest lever to pull. They may be able to do an on your honor day. Say, you know what? Okay, you're not going to give me vacation in my bank, but I like volunteering, or I have this something that I'm passionate about. May I have a day off instead of taking PTO to do that? May I have an on your honor day? So we have to be creative with that as well. Embrace the no and ask questions. So you didn't get the raise. Why didn't I get it? What do I need to do? Help me understand what is the progression of the work that I'm doing and into work I need to be doing that has higher market value for this organization. And it's the work that I want to do. Stay positive, which is a growth mindset. Don't let the emotions overwhelm you, okay? Don't threaten or give an ultimatum. If I don't get this raise, I'm going to start looking. Well, guess what? That ultimatum probably lost all your leverage, because threatening to quit is like quitting, okay? You've just said to your manager, I'm kind of going to start, changing my ways, okay? And if that behavior becomes evident, your manager is going to stop advocating. Don't talk about others, keep it about you. So maybe you've done your research around asking Sally and asking Joe and asking somebody, what do they make? And now you're comparing it to yourself. You need to start doing a little reflection around, okay, are they doing things differently than I'm doing? What is it that earned them higher market value? And I'm going to profile some people, let's call them in their 20s, early 20s. 2 years experience is not the same as 20. Okay, so unfortunately for someone who's a whippersnapper, they're super bright, they're very progressive, they're under 30, they think they're worth the same as someone with 15 or 20 years experience because they can kind of work faster around them, but they may not have the depth of knowledge and experience that someone else has. I'm not saying that's a steadfast rule or truth. It's a possibility. And I just need you to think about reflecting on that a little bit. Don't make it only a one-way conversation. Don't just talk me, and then make them give an answer. Ask questions. This is what I'm thinking. This is why I'm asking. These are the value add contributions that I've made. Do you agree that they're valuable? Should I continue to run the sustainability committee? Should I continue to run the recycling program? Should I continue to run the book club? I feel like it adds value. Do you believe it adds value, right? My customer or client feedback letters that share their satisfaction with my involvement, is that valuable to you? I want to get, confirmation that if I'm doing all these things, is it valuable? And get confirmation on that. Don't expect it to happen overnight. It could take months. April, this is a great time. If you're in a year-end process, this is a great time to be positioning yourself. What do I need to do? So when November, December comes, whenever raises are January, you've built up all this equity, sweat equity and real equity in yourself to make it difficult for that employer to say, wow, this person's so valuable. We don't want to lose her. And let's continue the conversation to make sure compensation is fair. Don't stop trying. That would be a fixed mindset. It could be staying and revising your plan, but it could mean leaving, right? All right, so I did rush and it's 9:56. Sorry.
That was great though. That was such important information. Melanie, do we have like one or two really quick questions we can get to?
I have a lot of questions, but before I get to questions, I'm just going to put in a quick plug, the salary history band that Michelle mentioned. I just wanted to mention that the West New York Women's Foundation's advocacy work was instrumental in getting that passed. So I just wanted to make that connection for everyone. So lots of questions. There were a lot of questions about about merit increases and how to talk about that. So a couple different points that I'll try to summarize them if you can touch on them quickly. Can you talk a little bit about the difference between cost of living adjustments and merit increases? And then just more broadly, how to start that conversation with your boss if you've taken on more work due to COVID, or you want to talk about it with your annual review, or maybe your company doesn't have an annual review, but you want to start that conversation. Like, what are some tools and tips for how to start that?
Sure, thanks. So cost of living adjustment, also known as COLA, C-O-L-A, I'm not familiar with any company that has a COLA any longer. You don't see, you used to, this is many years ago, decades ago, you'd have two lines. You'd have a COLA adjustment and then you'd have a merit or a raise. So that's kind of become not the norm. And it's mainly just a merit increase. Asking if there's a cost of living adjustment is almost a moot point. So I think the question was around talking about it getting a bigger merit increase, right? So
how to start that conversation, like any tips and tools?
Yep. So understanding, one, are there ranges? So what range am I in? Am I at the beginning? Am I at the middle? And am I at the top of the range? And if so, get that information and have that conversation with the manager. Okay, if the range is $45,000, which is about $22 an hour, to $65,000, which is about $30-ish an hour, somewhere in there. So I'm about $10 an hour range, 45 to 65. Where am I? And if I'm in the middle, what am I doing to get to the top? Some companies have a position that says we pay mid-market and that's it. Like, we don't care what the range is. We're only going to pay in the middle. We sometimes pay below. We pay high. So understand, what's the company process with ranges? Where are you in the range? And are there measurable / tangible objectives that get you out of the middle into the high end? And for lots of us, once you start getting into that high end of one range, you kind of want to get, well, what's my next move? Am I a client manager 1 into a client manager 2, client manager 3? Am I servicing small market, mid-market, large market? What do I need to do to get from this band? And now I'm at 57, 60,000. And then what's the next band? It starts back at 50, but goes to 75. And what are those accomplishments? It could be scope of work, complexity of work, technical work, those variety of things. I hope that's helpful. There's so many, it's difficult to talk about it in a general sense.
Absolutely. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have, but we do have a bunch of questions. If you don't mind, Michelle, I may email you some of them and we can
Sure.
get answers to those out to people. But thank you so much for this incredibly informative presentation. I think you covered a lot of ground and made a really great point about how negotiation isn't just the negotiation. There's so much more that you should consider when you're going into these conversations.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry, I wasn't better at the time management.
Oh, please. I think it was really valuable for everyone. But thanks to everyone also who logged on with us this morning. Friendly reminder to follow us on social media for all the latest updates, including a video of this presentation later today. Our next Pathways to Progress Speaker Series webinar will be on Friday, May 7th. Mara Bellevue is joining us to talk about gender and power dynamics in the workplace and how you can negotiate a co-ed workplace, as most of us have. You can register online at wnywomensfoundation.org right now. It is free, and we will also have a recording of that afterwards. Also, as I mentioned at the beginning, What She's Made Of is coming to a computer screen near you on May 17th, and you can register on our website for that as well. Thank you again to Michelle for joining us this morning and giving this wonderful presentation. Thanks to Melanie for moderating our Q&A, keeping everything together. And thanks everyone for logging on. I hope you can all be safe and be well.
Thank you.
Thanks.